Hey everyone, I'm Lisa Baudouin. Welcome to Lisa's chat room. Today is October 12th, 2025. It's a Sunday. I'm going to be talking about chemical awareness in this video. And actually this is impromptu. What I usually do with my videos now is I create them, and if I think someone can use them right away, I put them up on my channel, and then eventually I will take them and render them nicely, make them nice and neat, take out all the chitter, put maybe some supporting docs with it or whatever, maybe add something to it, and then repost it in a nicer format with menus and whatnot. But sometimes I just put it up there because I know that there are other people that can use this information immediately. So this particular video is about chemical awareness. And what I'm going to be talking about here first is I'm going to be talking about Epsom salts and how you can use that as a rinse if you wanted to, or as part of the wash experience, the washing machine, in the washing machine. So I'm going to talk about that first, and then I'm going to go over to my computer and show you what I've been doing with my chemical research as far as my database and how you can kind of implement that into your Excel file. And some of these are long-winded, and I apologize, and it's not perfect, and I will kind of trip up once in a while. But I will, again, re-render, and when I do that, then I take all that junk out. The thing I have to say, though, before anything is I'm not an expert in anything, so anything I share with you, if you try it, use it, or buy it, you do so at your own risk and peril. Also, too, I'm not affiliated, endorsed, or reimbursed by any company or product that I talk about in my videos. Finally, if you get something from this video, please give it a like, subscribe, share with friends and family, drop that comment below, because I do vet and read every single one. And then also, to click the notification bell. Ding, ding. Okay. I really thought about putting music, and I did dally a little bit in some of my videos with music. It's too hard. I can do it, but the thing is, the thrill is gone when it comes to rendering videos. I'm not good at it. I don't like doing it. I'm on my 4th video editor, and the equipment that I need, I'm always struggling, and it takes so much time. You just don't understand how much time it takes to track all that, and I do the best I can, and I think I'm actually better at producing videos, so that's really great. But sometimes I just want to throw it out there because, again, I know people that are having this difficult time with these sensitivities, and I just want to get them the information. And it might just be 1 or 2 people that watch that video. I don't care. If I'm helping you, that's great. You can push like, you can subscribe. You don't have to. Totally up to you. Anyway, getting into here, we're talking about adding Epsom salts as basically like a rinse or into your wash. So what I would do if I were you, and I don't really like a lot of smells, so I've got a couple things here. First of all, I got a mason jar, because if you're going to use Epsom salts in this form, you're going to want to have it in a melted form, suspended form in water, because if you try to put that into your wash, it might not break down as well, especially if you're not going to use hot water. So my suggestions, and again, this is my opinions, my suggestions would be that you actually use purified water or distilled water, first of all, and then just on the top of your cap, put it in a mason jar, and on the top, write Epsom salts. And you could write the scent that you're going to use in here, on here. And how you get this off, if you want to change it up, is you just use a little bit of rubbing alcohol, and that'll take that off. That's just an indelible marker right here. Okay, so that's how you get that off. I use that on my DVDs when I save stuff on rewritable DVDs, and then I can take it off doing that. I figured that out. Anyway, point is, getting back to this, if you're going to use the powder form, that's what I would do. Now, for me, I'm not going to use this as a rinse because when I turn it around, it has Epsom salts. All right, it's right here, ingredients. It's got magnesium sulfate, which is Epsom salt. And then here it says fragrance. See that? All right. And then it says it has lavender oil. And then it has linalool, right? I don't use this. I accidentally bought this. And I'm like, oh my gosh, because I don't use the scented one. This is the leftover of my regular, which I'm down to the last one. I had it for like 10 years, to be honest with you. That's as much as I've got left. And that's about as much as I need if I'm going to use this as a rinse. So I do use it sometimes, especially if I feel like my clothes are a little bit scratchy. So let's just take a look at the research I've done. And I haven't done a whole lot of research on Epsom salts, but here it's called magnesium sulfate or magnesium sulfate with pH. And it says I'm going to screw this up, heptahydrate takes its common name Epsom salt from a bitter saline spring in Epsom in Surrey, England, where the salt was produced from the springs that arise where the porous chalk of the North Downs meets the impervious London clay. It's a natural source of both magnesium and sulfur, and it's usually refined in a chemical process or boiled down, while sea salt is obtained by evaporating sea salt. Epsom salt has an antibacterial property that can help prevent acne and breakouts. According to the research I did, and I'll put the link in the description below so you can go look at that. And also, too, you need to do your own research. Make sure you go out there and you research these chemicals, especially the ones that we use every single day on our skin. When it comes to our washing clothes, we're using products for that. We're using our dish soaps. I'm going to make another video, by the way, for dish soaps, hand lotions, shampoos, things like that. I'm going to actually be making videos moving forward about those and show you the products I use. But usually what I try to do is find anything that is plant-based. I'll tell you that right away. Plant-based for me is the best, but sometimes I still have a problem. So I wonder, am I allergic to something that's plant-based, or is there something in there that isn't plant-based and they're saying it is, it's not there? I don't know. Is it there or isn't it? Not sure, because I'm still trying to take down all my sensitivities. Now, before I move on to that, I just want to say here what I've got is that Epsom salt. So what I can do is I can take and I can boil. This is boiled water. It's very hot. Distilled water, and then I can pour that in there like this. I'll fast forward this when I get to here we go. Got 1 quart, right? All right, so I got that. Now what I can do is I can just leave it in there and then cover it up. And then when I go to use it, I will just take and just gently shake it a little bit, and then I will take and use probably not even all of it. Just a quarter of a cup is fine. For me, less is fine. I told you about that Ruth. She's really awesome. She's in these videos. They're on YouTube where the archaeologist and the historian, they go and they stay in a farm for a year. And they live, during a certain era, like the Edwardian era and the Victorian era. And you're like, what? I don't even know. I'm from America. I don't honor kings and queens. I don't honor anybody. I respect everybody. I think we're all equal. That's my personal opinion. But, I respect what they feel. But the point is I'm like, okay, what is that? So I actually studied Britain. Really, I went all the way back and studied. I went all the way back in Egyptology and studied. I go back in history and I move forward, trying to put the pieces together eventually. Just saying, oh, this is interesting. So, I don't know everything, but I just pull from that. But anyway, it was Queen Victoria, then it was her son, Edward. And so, knowing their timelines is kind of important when you're watching these. The one thing I wish they would do on these videos is, first of all, put the date, the year at least, so I know when they made them. And then secondly, the timeline of these European eras. Or even like Time Team. Time Team is one of my most favorite shows on YouTube. It's archaeologists digging over there in England. I like that one the best. I like Phil Harding and Tony and I'm trying to think of their names and I can't offhand, but I just love that show. And I watch them too. It's just so interesting watching these people digging in the dirt, but they're digging up history. And I do that too. I do history with my family, and eventually I'm going to show you my Ancestry database. And it is so awesome. But you can track Ancestry without a database. No problem. You can use a binder and write it out by hand and collect things by hand. Basically just making sure that you use an ID for each person, that type of thing. And then you just have little you know, like maybe you're number one and you have a tab for number one and you have all your stuff behind that. Number two is your mom. Number three is your dad, that type of thing. Anyway, I'm getting off track. Here, getting back to here, that pure Epsom salts, that's one way of doing it. Another way is by using an oil. So I do have these, and I have actually never used these ever. They've been sitting in the cupboard. The problem with oils is that they don't distribute in the water very well. So I guess what I would do is I would take and make the powder form and put it in the powder form and just mix a little bit in the powder form and then maybe keep it in a container like this. And I wouldn't mix up too much at a time. That way, at least it's in the powder, you know, it's integrated. So, but I've actually never done that. And I know, you know, people like fragrance in their clothes. I personally don't. I don't want to smell that on my clothes. And actually now I'm really sensitive. Like when I open this bag, it's super, super sensitive. I should just give this away because I really don't use it. It's too much to me, and a little bit is plenty. This, like I said, I'll be using maybe a quarter cup, and this is non-scented. Now, had this been where it didn't say fragrance and it had just said oil, maybe I would have used that, but I want to look up this linalool. I want to look that up. See that? It says linalool. I'm pretty sure that's what it says. It's kind of hard to see it. So I will look that up, and I'll put that in my database. So that's what I wanted to talk about with the with your Epsom salts. And also too, I do use this. What I'll do is I'll use this for my baths. I'll take a bath. I'll use a tablespoon of Epsom salts in the bath. Some people might use more, but I just use a tablespoon and just take a nice soothing bath, and it does help. It does seem to relax me. Just the idea of warm water and magnesium in there, just a little bit of magnesium. I really do like that. But the other thing is I don't eat regular table salt. Very seldom do I do that. This is my salt that I consume, and this is sea salt. So it's got sodium chloride in it, but it has minerals in it. It has, I don't remember the exact amount. I think it's 84. It said 84 minerals in there, which is really different because when you go to use it, it's not as salty as like table salt. It has it in there, but you can taste the other minerals just as much. So I wouldn't say use more, use less, but you don't have that much sodium chloride in it, where table salt, that's basically sodium chloride. I think it's mixed with other things too, and you know, I don't really want to get into it because I don't have that info here, but research table salt too and try to change out to the this is sea salt, and actually there's a better salt out there too. So do some research on that and try to consume this, because this is something I use all the time. You know, that's what I'm saying. Once in a while, if I do something, okay, fine. But when I'm using something all the time, I want to try to make sure that it's as organic as possible. Remember, we've got that scope. That scope is basically when you go to the store and you're going to look up 3 products. You know, say you're looking at laundry soaps. You want to see, first of all, you're trying to recognize what are the base. Okay, what makes that product do what it's supposed to do. And then you've got your preservatives. Okay, and the preservatives, those can be anything from salts, citric acid. Those are the natural ones, but then also too formaldehyde, MIT, BIT, those types of things. And then there's other things in it too, and depending upon. And one of the things that's driving me crazy that I'm highly allergic to is dimethicone. And dimethicone is now being put in so many products. I'm going to do a video on it specifically. The first time I reacted was I used some furniture polish on my table. Yes, it was in the furniture polish, and I went absolutely crazy. I took like 2 hours to get it off the table. And then all of a sudden now they're putting it into shampoos, conditioners, makeup. It's in so many different things. And it's basically smoother. It smooths things if you look at it that way. But I would definitely check that out and see. And I'm not sure. I don't think this is a preservative. I think it's part of the base. You know, like in cosmetics, what it does is it makes your skin look smoother. It makes your hair feel smoother in a conditioner and even in the shampoos. It seems to me that products go in trends. So for a while, they used something called EDTA, which is, I'm going to show you that in a minute. It's basically formaldehyde mixed with salts, mixed with whatever else, I don't know. But it has formaldehyde in it. And you've got something called formaldehyde, but you also have formaldehyde releasers. And trust me, I still have a hard time remembering what that means. I'm like, what does that mean? It slowly releases some other chemicals. Remember, these chemicals they're event driven. So in other words, when this is sitting in the bag, nothing's happening. But when I mix it with water, something happens. It creates an agitation. It dissolves, it suspends. And then when it touches my skin, it does something. Same thing with your dish soaps. When you have your dish soap sitting in the container, it's not doing anything. The minute it hits water, the minute it's agitated, it starts to, the chemicals in there start to respond. So it's what I call event driven. And that's database language, really, because everything in a database is event driven. You type something and it's going to do something. There's a reaction. So you've got the reaction and the event, and I'm going to show you that to you in a minute. When I get to the computer, I'll actually kind of bring you into my world a little bit more. But that's the point of it. It's the formaldehyde releaser. It's sort of event driven. So as you use the product, it breaks down the formaldehyde, which helps preserve the product, because the preservatives are there for, first of all, to keep it suspended so it doesn't rot, but also to make it long lasting. Okay, that's what I think. And again, based on opinion. Getting back to here, when you're scoping a product, you're trying to find the chemicals that are the purpose, the preservatives, which sometimes the preservatives will be part of the purpose, and then you're looking for the additives. You're looking for brighteners, and you're looking for fragrance, right? Those are the extras. And when I buy a product, I avoid especially this, because they don't tell me what this is. I don't see on this bag what is fragrance. They are not breaking it down, so I don't know. And if I'm allergic to it, I avoid it, okay? And until I can find out exactly what this is. And I'm going to show you, before I do that, I'm going to show you how I do that. But before I do that, I want to just get done with this thought. Now, you scope out the product by doing that, but also, too, you're looking for the how many chemicals are in that product. You know, you're trying to look for something that has the least amount of chemicals. And then the actual, the name, okay? If it's some long, drawn-out name, that doesn't necessarily mean it's synthetic. Vitamin E, they use the chemical name for vitamin E. They use the chemical name for vitamin C. You know, they're doing that. But the thing is when you look up the name, is it organic or is it synthetic? And the bottom line is this going to break down into the earth and go back to being organic or synthetic? Is it just going to sit in our earth and cause issues with our earth and maybe poisons to the animals and the water and the dirt? Because if it does that to the earth, what's it doing to my skin, my hair? You know, and do I really want to choose a product, even if it smells good, even though I think it feels good? If I do the reality check on it, do I want to use a product that eventually in time I realize, holy cat, this is really bad for the environment? You know, like dish soaps. You think about your dish soaps and how much you've used them. Your shampoos, your conditioners. Every time you take a shower, you're using some type of product. Every time you wash your clothes, you're using a product, and that product is getting into the water system. And, you know, the animals, the plants, the animals, everything, it's absorbing into the soil. You know, just looking at this is basically, you know, some schools of thought. First of all, that, what are the chemicals? I want to try to find something that doesn't have a lot. So you can look at this first and then that, or that first and then this. And where is it made from? Where is it made? Okay. For me, I'm sorry, I am a little biased. If it's made in the USA versus some other place, and I'm not going to say where, but we all know where. If it's made somewhere else, I'm going to choose the USA. Especially if I know that it's being made with organic materials, plant-based. This is the new term that everybody's using to sell stuff, plant-based. Now, here's the kicker with this. Sometimes they'll say plant-based. It's made mostly of plant-based materials, but sometimes there might be hidden stuff that are synthetic. Now, the thing is at least it's better than what it was, right? That's how I see it. It's getting better. There's awareness. People are saying, I'm not buying these products. And I got to tell you, what I know with government, with everything, you are the one that has the power. We are the ones who have the power. If you choose not to buy it, then that product's going to go out of business. And the ones that actually are, that you are buying are going to stay in business. Or they're going to change and they're going to make it where they're more popular for consumerism. So you want to choose products that are natural, that are plant-based, that are good for the environment. So when they break down into the environment, they're not going to hurt the environment. Because if they do hurt the environment, what are they doing to your skin? What are they doing to your hair? What are they doing to your mind? You're breathing it in. You're breathing in dimethicone. You're breathing in formaldehyde to a point. It's powdery dust. It ends up becoming a powdery dust and a gas. When we talk about the invaders, we've got, and this is just kind of like a little health class here. First of all, we've got invaders. And that's, I used to just say like different types of diseases and whatnot, but I just break it into invaders. And basically we've got your bacterias, we've got viral, right? We've got fungus, we've got yeast, right? These are invaders that are basically alive. Okay, we'll just say that way. They're basically alive. They've got an origin where they actually, and is that the truth? I don't know. Are bacteria more like they're just some kind of a, I don't know, kind of, I don't even want to get into it, but you know what I'm saying. Were they made? I don't know, but I'm just saying they basically will attack us in a specific way into our cells and whatnot. But also too, now we've got the other invaders, and what are those? Those are plastics, chemicals, and gases. Okay, so I kind of put it that way. So plastics, we've got different kinds of plastics, and I have a video coming out about that. And what are happening now? It's just the same crap that happened with asbestos. Asbestos was the be-all, do-all. Back in England, I was watching this show. It's a really great show. I'll put a link to it. They're talking about how, all these products were, beginning products, and we used them, and then we realized just how bad they were. So asbestos is the same thing. We still have asbestos in our homes, and asbestos is bad. We cover it up because we can't get rid of it. But if it breaks or something and it's airborne, these little pieces of dust get in our lungs and causes mesothelioma, cancer. So, and now we know that. But back in the day, asbestos was the be-all, do-all. And then there was lead-based paint. Okay, and I have a whole thing that I'll be doing about lead-based paint in the spring next year. It's horrible. What does lead do? Lead gets into the calcium receptors of everybody's brain. It blocks it. Kind of like caffeine gets into the adenosine receptors of your brain and blocks that. And I've talked about that in my substance video. Same crap with the lead. And why that's really hard is because those calcium receptors create a protein, or it's a protein-based trigger called BDNF that has, where kids actually, that's where their cognitive function is created. That's why. And I mean, that's part of it. So lead, where does lead fall under? Chemical, right? Lead, formaldehyde. Okay, but and chemicals can be powder form, they can be liquid form, right? And then we've got gases. And what are gases? Well, like ethanol, methanol, I haven't really even studied gases that much. But what I'm showing you is this breakdown in my head about the invaders, bacteria, virus, and I split them out that way too. So for instance, in my playbook, if I get a bacterial infection, say pneumonia, because pneumonia you can get bacterial, you can get viral, you can get fungal. And there might even be another one, I don't know. But I have bacterial pneumonia last year or earlier. Was it this year? I think it was this year, earlier, okay, or last year. Anyway, point is then I study it really good. But I understand what category it goes in this Invaders tab in my playbook. And this is really great for parents too, because you can do this too. You can just write a tab that says Invaders, because most of the time bacteria is going to, it's kind of like almost, there's different types of, how can I do it? And I'm not a doctor. I'm just researching it. There's different types of bacterial infections. So they can be targeted at a system, but they can also, they create a systemic response, I should say, an overall bodily response. But they start somewhere, like your C19s and things like that. They start in the lungs. They attack in the lungs, but then they affect other systems in your body. So that type of thing. And when you start to study, you start to see that, especially if you studied the systems like I have. I've pulled them apart. Best way to do that is get a structure and function book. Not anatomy, structure and function. Because anatomy kind of pushes everything together, where structure and function actually split it apart by system, and then the structure, the function, and the dysfunction. And then I talk about the therapies and the remedies in my playlists, in all of them. That's how I carry that on. But anyway, point is we're looking at these when it comes to chemical sensitivities and the issues that we're having in our environment. Do they break down? And you have the power to walk past a product, or at least take a look at 2 products, try 3, and take a look and do this. I call it scoping. You just scope it out and you just say, okay, let's see, where was it made? Is it, does it have 5,000 ingredients? Okay, and can I pronounce those? Can I look some of those up? Can I see if they're plant-based or not? And then they're also listed, the ingredients are listed from the heaviest to the lightest. This and this and this. And that's why they're not usually grouped together. But some products now are telling you exactly what, especially the plant-based ones, they'll tell you what that chemical is for, which is good. And then they'll say, at the bottom of the list, they'll have some type of preservative, and it might be a synthetic preservative, but they're using in the bulk, they're using the plant-based. So what are you going to use? Are you going to use the product that has all chemicals that you can't even pronounce? Or are you going to try to use something that's plant-based that has maybe possibly some, but just a little bit? Right? So that's your choice. For me, it depends on what this is. If it's something I'm allergic to, I can't use it. That's my big issue here. All right. So that's a little, chemical awareness 101 here. I just brought you into my brain. And so this is something I think everybody should be doing and thinking and putting in their parenting playbook and sharing with their kids too. Understanding that, you put something on, what's in that cloth, what's in that material. And I've done plenty of videos where I show you, and I actually have links to videos, and all you got to do is research. Just research, say, how do they make clothing dye? What's being put in our clothes? And you will find millions of links to, some people are proud of it, putting it in, manufacturers, and some people are not, and you've got these advocates kind of like me that are yelling out. And, the thing is you have to make your own choice. So, but for people like me, we really have to do the research. I don't want to just leave it up to somebody, and I can't anyway. I have to do the research so that I know what I can use. And that's what this is about. This is I'm allergic, yes. I'm not allergic, no list. So I'm going to bring you to my computer in a minute, but basically what's happened is all the stuff that I've done is leading down into this, and then one other list that I want to show you. So this, I can take this with me, or usually what I do is I go on the internet and I look up products, and then I can write, I can just identify, look at the product and say what's in it, and I can go through my list right here. Now, this means it says overall. This means product overall. So in other words, I tag this product that I'm allergic to it. I'm not necessarily allergic to all the chemicals though, but I'm allergic to the product. I don't want to use it. I need to find something else, right? So that's what that means. So these chemicals are in those products that I said, yes, there's something in there I'm allergic to. And then here I specifies, is this chemical formaldehyde? And as I go, again, this is on the fly. So some of these might be, and I'm just finding out more and more as I go along, right? Then here, specifically, do I believe, and again, this is, do I believe that I'm allergic to it? So for instance, this right here, it's in a lot of the products that I'm allergic to overall, so I'm going to mark it yes. Now that doesn't mean necessarily that I am. It just means I'm going to try to avoid this in those products. Obviously this one, I know for sure this one, because this is formaldehyde based, and anyone that has the formaldehyde based, I know for sure. And I'm going to add another row called dimethicone because, and I'll toggle that because I know for sure I am highly allergic to dimethicone. So here I've got my formaldehyde. So then I know that when I'm looking up a thing. Now, the one thing I'm missing on here is what it is. Is it a base? Is it a preservative? But does it really matter? Well, and the thing is yes, I want to know that, but it doesn't really matter. If it's in the product, I don't want to use it. So for instance, here, right here, this MCI, I'm not sure if I'm allergic to that or not. I believe this is a preservative, okay? If I look it up in my database, I think that's a preservative. My main concern is what I'll do is I'll target, I'll funnel into it. I'll research it. The more and more it comes up in the product lists that I have on my database, I'll start to list it more and more. For instance, this one here, that's in every single product that I'm allergic to, fragrance unknown. And that means I don't know what it is because they're not telling us. So I just put yes, definitely, I'm allergic to it. In other words, I'm going to avoid that product. If there's fragrance and it doesn't describe exactly what that fragrance is made out of, I'm avoiding that product. I'd rather buy something that tells me what's in it. Right? So that's my yes. Now here's my no. In other words, I have to not just know what I'm allergic to, but what I'm not allergic to, so I can buy products so I don't have to sit and spend hours. And you know, it's kind of annoying, I'm sure, to the people who I buy this stuff from, because I'll bring stuff back and say, I'm allergic to it, I can't deal with it. And as I get better, then I'm doing that less. And so these are the things, and again, it's just a supposition. The other part I forgot to say is here I've got a count. And this count tells me this is in 4 of the products. This one is in 1 of the products. 2. That's very important to know. And I've got that in my no list too. So here I've got my no and I've got my numbers. So the chances of me being allergic to, let's say, something that has a high amount on here, glycerin. I've got glycerin. It's in 4 of the products that I'm not allergic to overall. The chances of me being allergic to that are pretty slim. So that's what I've got this for. This is like, yes, no. No, I'm not allergic. Hopefully. And the thing is it may change. Maybe I'll buy something and I'll realize eventually down the road as I obtain more data that I am allergic to glycerin. But I know for a fact I'm not, because I actually have some just glycerin. And I know that I have no problem with it. So this is my yes, and this is my no. I put it in alphabetical order. It's much easier that way. And I can take this and put this into my purse. And I can take this with me and I can go look at products. And it's kind of a pain to have it this way, but this is the next step. The next step after this would be to have it into format on my Google Drive in a file, or MS Excel. I could use the drive for MS Excel. And then I just have that on my phone and I can look it up on my phone. So that would be the next step. But I do like to have it in print form. I'm just old-fashioned that way. All right. So that's what I want to show you there. All right. And now we're at my computer. And I'm trying to find something where, you know, I can do Zoom and I can do this as a secondary, you know, have it really nice where you're looking at the computer screen and I'm not moving around and whatnot. But sometimes I'm just working so much and I just don't have time. So, but I wanted to show you, this is the form that I've been, you know, building. And over here on the left, I have my chemical ingredients. So if I click on this, this is the listing of chemicals that I have in this database, and that's in a separate table. And here I've got my, am I sure I'm allergic, or do I not think I'm allergic? And you database programmers, I actually put a different toggle option in here. In other words, each one is a field. Usually you wouldn't do that. You would just say yes or no. But I wanted to keep it separate, just the way that I wanted it formed when I'm asking the questions in my queries. But here, what happens is I can look something up and I can see this product and I can also see what it's in. And do I feel I'm allergic to it? And this says yes. See, that's how this works. So, but this one, it's not in any products yet that I have. For some reason, I looked it up and I don't know why, but it's in there. And I think that was when I was initially making this database. I just was looking up all kinds of stuff. So, but here, this is in this athlete's foot product. And it does appear that I'm allergic to it, right? So could I be, the thing is it's in the product overall. So could I be allergic to any kind of alcohol? Possibly. There might be issues with the alcohol because I'm allergic to fragrances. And what is one of the prime ingredients in a fragrance? Alcohol. So anyway, point is that's where I keep my list. Now the table behind that, in case you want to know, is right here. This is the table. So I've got a long, huge table. And I just started doing this. I want to know the research date, the date I put it in. I don't know. It's just, for a professional, I would have done that a long time ago. I just threw it in there, and so now it's auto calculating the date for me when I put in a chemical. So anyway, there's that, right? Then I have this lookup list, and when I first started, that's what I had, so that I could just reference the sub list. So this is really the product's main form, main table, right here. And then this is the product's subtable, which that's where I implement the ingredients. So I've got a main list for the chemicals, and then I draw them out into my chemical list, right? This is where I can put where I buy them, so that I know, one of the things I needed to know is not just am I allergic to it, do I use it? I thought of that. It dawned on me the other day. I'm like, I need to have that, where this product I use quite a bit, which it's really hard because, say, for example, I have this hand soap that I love. I bought 40 bottles of it about 5 years ago. And guess what? I'm down to the last one. And guess what? They don't make it anymore. Ugh. So I got to find another one. But this is where I keep that information, and I can literally figure out right here. I can figure out how much it costs me per load, you know, that type of thing. Especially for the laundry soaps. That's what I was doing that for. You know, where do I usually buy it? And that way I can do cost comparisons too. So eventually, again, if it's something I buy, I can say, well, where can I get this at a lesser price? Or how can I buy it in bulk? Oftentimes you can find stuff that you buy in bulk. It's actually going to cost you more, even though you think it's less. You have to do the math. So, but anyway, so here I've got a search form now here too, because the names are the names of the product names. So I could look up, right here, I could look up hand, right? I just typed hand in that yellow box. And it's going to bring up, right here, it says filtered. And I know it's kind of hard to see, but it says filtered. And so there are 5 products that have hand in the name, in the title name. And so then I can look through those products by just clicking this and going through each one. And so that's over here, see? And then I've got the name. What I usually do is I'll just copy and paste the ingredients here and then put them in order. And I must, this is a must, to have an index of the first ingredient to the last ingredient. It's technically, and actually this one, I'm not sure if this is first to last. I just threw this in here, but that's what I do now moving forward, is I try to make sure that I have them in by what they say is the first ingredient to the last, because that means, as far as I know, and again, I'm not an expert, but that means that that's the heaviest in this product. It used to be that way anyway, where it was the heaviest, by volume, by weight. That's how they measure things. And I think chemically that's how they make things too. And it's called commercialization, by the way. So here, what I've done is, and this particular product, this is the one I used. It's called the Vents Zone. I bought it at Menards. And unfortunately, let me see if I can clean this. I don't know if that's dirty or what the deal is. It looks kind of, it's just that it's dark by my computer. The lighting is weird. But anyway, so here it's the Vents Zone. See how that long, that's the name of it. And then I also put the year. And what I do is I actually make a new file for, say, the next year I check the list. Okay, it's like, so for instance, the next time I buy this, say I bought this and I bought it in 2024, I'm going to check it again, the ingredients against this year, or say 2026. If they don't match, I'll make a new record, and I'll have a brand new record, and I'll have the same exact thing, but I'll put 2026 or whatever year it is. And then I've got my mother company. I've got cleaning. I'm so sorry that it's not coming in very bright. I just don't know why. I've got cleaning. I've got lookup ingredient. I've got all this information, and then the chemicals here. So I can click on the chemical here. But now what I've done is I've made it where when I add it here, if it's not in my chemical table, it'll just add. For example, I'll just put RE like that. It's going to ask me, RE is not on the list. Do you want to add it? So I can, it's called adding on the fly. So I don't want to add that. I'm going to delete that off. There we go. All right. So that's one thing that I implemented recently, because it was such a pain to go copying and pasting and back and forth. But remember, for this, my databases are on the fly. And actually, it's pretty dang nice now. It's almost, I would say it's almost finished, because now I've added a new form. And this is where it really makes, where I'm really going in. So this is why. Here I've got this is my query. Well, let me bring you back here. All right, so here I've got my allergic to. This is called a crosstab query. So I've got the list of chemicals here. That's the row header. Then these are row headers too, by the way, you database programmers or pivot people. This would be the row header. Then here, my product is the column header, the product name. And then the am I allergic to the overall product is the value. When you do a pivot or a crosstab, you have to have row, column, value. And you can have other rows too. And you can actually even pull these together. You can make a couple crosstabs and do it. But I usually keep it simple, because when you start to add stuff in here, it's going to get boggy. And it's going to get confusing. So I just keep it like that. But here's my product, or my problem is, these are all the products, you know, that I am having an issue with. Right, all of them that are so far into my list here. If I went here, here's my listing of the products so far that I put in, right? But my big problem here is, okay, I don't want to have to go through and parse out and say, well, what about the hand lotions? So what I did was I created this form. Oh, I forgot to talk about this. So here's my allergy crosstab. Here's my allergy list. Yes, that's the list that I printed out, right? Here's the allergy list. No, that's the list I printed out. And eventually what I can do is I could literally have this on, you know, my phone, the whole database, put on my phone, put on a platform and have it there. But I'm not going to do that. I'm going to keep it separate. I just want the lists. So, and every once in a while I can just add, you know, on the drive. And the way you do that is you have a drive. If you have a drive, and I'm going to go to my drive, but I'm not going to show you yet, because I don't want you to see my private stuff. Okay. Up here, it says this, right? You go to the drive, and I show you how to do that. You can go to the computer playlist, and I'll show you how to make a drive. So I can have it on here, and that way when I have it on here I can put it in spreadsheet form. I can upload it, and it'll be on here. So I can have it in my as a list on a spreadsheet. You can have Google Sheets, Google Docs, and Google Slides, and now I don't know, they're coming up with other stuff, but so anyway, point is I could just put it on my phone then, because then I can access the drive from my phone. But I don't do that. I don't want you seeing what I got. It doesn't really matter, but okay, so back to this. So I've got those lists, and they work really nice. But again, it's sort of like, okay, I go to buy a hand lotion. I have a hard time because I got to go through all this stuff. So instead, what I did, I have this form. It's called category research. So what I do first is I run the query, and that's the overall query. And then I can go in, and I can, for instance, I can filter on, which I don't have any conditioners in here, which is weird. So I got to check to see if this is working correctly. I wrote the code. Yeah, dang it. Okay, for some reason it's glitching up. So I'm going to show you. The reason it's glitching up is I'm running code behind these. All right, this one's working fine. This is the code behind it. Remember, I said things are event driven. So when I click that button, what I'm doing is instead of having a pre-made query, I'm asking the computer to make a query with this. It's called a select statement. So this is called dim. And what that basically is saying, strip any properties off, any formatting or anything off this. Because you can format in text, you can format in numbers. Strip that all off so that I can pull everything as like almost like a generic. I think, that's basically what's saying. So dimming this, and then I'm also creating calls. So then I can take, like right here it says dim st string. That means string SQL as string. Okay, now here's what I'm doing. I'm commanding it. I'm saying, okay, this is what I want. I want you to transform this information. And transform means create a pivot. That's what it is. At the end, I'm actually commanding and saying, this is the type I want you to transform it to, pivot. So if you're making databases, you know exactly what I'm doing here. And basically, when you look at a regular database query and you go to the SQ design, that's exactly what it's doing there. That's just a pre-built one, where what I want to do is I want to refresh it every single time that it comes in here. So that's why I've got this run query. That one's working good. So what happens is down here, it's creating this query, and it's fine. The next step, and I always do things step by step, is for it to filter it. And that's where I've got the problem. So, and I'm kind of bummed because it worked fine a minute ago. I had no problem. But if I go to a backup, this one here, let me go to this one. I was playing around is what I was doing. So if I go to the backup and I go to shampoo. Okay, first of all, this is not supposed to be there. I'm running the query. That's the query. Now when I put this in, I should get my shampoos. So see what happened? So here's my shampoos. And that way what I can do is I can look this up and say, okay, here's my shampoos that I bought right here. And I'm having an issue with. So what could it be? What chemical could it be that's causing this problem? Get it? So, and then this is the chemical count. So I basically only have 3 shampoos in here. And I'm asking myself, this is the chemical count. I'm having an issue with this one, and I'm having an issue with this one, but I'm not having an issue with this one right here. So I'm having an issue with this, and not that one. So 2 of them overall, the product overall. So maybe I'm having a problem with the aloe, but I highly doubt it, because when I do a search on the other products, that one isn't listed. Get it? The other products for the aloe is not listed, and I do use aloe. So what I can do is I can go into my chem. I would go into here, and I'd look up my aloe, and I can put, no, I'm not. I know that specifically I'm not allergic to this chemical. And now when I run that list, okay, run the query first. This technically is supposed to be down here, but I just haven't had time. And then we were looking at shampoos, right? Shampoo, where is it? There it is. Shampoo. Run it. Okay. Now aloe's not on there. Because I know for sure that I'm not allergic to aloe. See what I'm saying? And I'm still in process of this. But that's how this works. It's supposed to work like that on the other one. I was messing around. I was trying to do something and I don't remember what. So I have to just clean up the code and put the code like this one is. And so you can see, now this is going to be so nice because then what I can do is I can just look something up and I can say, okay, because here's the part of the problem too. The companies will change up the chemicals. So maybe I'm not allergic to it now, but maybe when they change up the chemicals, they'll add something that I am allergic to. Like I said, shampoos, what I noticed is the shampoos and the conditioners and everything, they go through these trends. They go through, first it was EDTA, and they were using all kinds of EDTA, formaldehyde-based products. And then they started using this stuff, right? Where is it? They started using, I'm trying to find it, this stuff, BIT. And it was in all kinds of products. BIT, and then another one called MIT, which is the meth. It's a big, long methylenone. This one. This one. Here, MCI. It was in all kinds of, so they go in these trends. So for a while it'll be EDTA. Then they'll switch over to a different preservative. What they're doing is they scope out the products. All companies that I know of, especially the big ones, what they do is they will tear apart a product that works, and then they're going to try to find ways to not cheapen the product, but cheapen the cost of the product, the cost of goods. Remember, they have to make a profit. So, and remember the profit is this: profit, increased sales, and increased productivity, less cost of goods, and less expenses. That equals profit. So if their sales go up, the amount goes up, or they get more people, and they're making more widgets, whatever they make, then their profit should go up. But if the expenses go up to pay those people, or maybe the box price costs more, or that's expenses, or maybe the paper costs more, or maybe to make the product costs more. Maybe they can't get some chemical as less expensive as they have, so now they're going to go to something else. They're doing research, chemical research, and they're going to change up that chemical. That happens constantly. And I know because I was a part of a company that was doing that, and I was building a database for them to rid them of a certain type of chemical. So I'm just telling you that. So anyway, point is this is how, as far as I've gotten, right? So what does this mean? And the reason I want to show you this is because you, as a person that has chemical sensitivities, you're not going to build a database, okay? Probably not, okay? And it's going to be really tough. And the thing is you might not be allergic to what I'm allergic to. That is the reality of things. I'm allergic to formaldehyde and dimethicone. You might be allergic to, I don't know, the MIT or the BIT or whatever it is. So you're going to have a different scope. So I was showing you, when you create your Excel file, you're going to have, do I have it here? Hold on a second here. I'm just going to make a new one. Okay, just show you. It's very easy to make. You're going to have your chemicals here. So you'll rename this tab, right? And I show you how to use MS Excel. Google Sheets and MS Excel are about the same thing. You have a framework. The framework goes around it. This is in all of them. Usually they call this now a ribbon. Back in 95 when I started doing this, it was a menu. So that's, sometimes I have a hard time, believe it or not, because I did code for menus and now everything's slightly different. But anyway, this is your menu. You click here to hide it, click here to open it in Excel, and then here's your tabs. And these are basically just links to these spreadsheets. That's all they are. They're called tabs. And so you can make as many as you want. I think you can make a couple hundred. You could have, but you basically, your sheet 1, you're going to rename that, right click and rename that to your chem. right? We want the chem list here, right? Then sheet 2, you're going to want to rename your prod. You're going to want your prods there, your product name. And then here, what you're going to do is you're going to rename this to prod chemicals, prod ingredients. But I mean, to make it easier for you, it's prod chem, because it's the ingredients. Once a chemical goes into a product, then we call it ingredient. But just understanding, here you're going to name your prods and your chemicals, and you're going to put 1, 2, 3, oops, and you're going to give them an ID. Right? If you give them an ID, you can do it this way, or you can write them out text. So you're going to give them an ID, and this would be chemical 1, and this one would be chemical 2, and this one would be chemical 3, right? Same thing with the product. You're going to give the product an ID, and you're going to have a header up here too, right? So prod ID, and then it's going to be P1, P2, P3. I would suggest you do this even if you're just going to use the names and the next tab. And so you'll have product 1 and you'll have the name here. Okay. Then the next step would be over here. You're going to put PID or P name, whichever way you want to do it. You could do P name, it's fine. And then you're going to put the name of it right here. So P1, I'm just going to put P1. And then you're going to put whatever the chemical is. And then you're going to write P1. And you're going to list all the chemicals for P1 right here. Then you can go and you can do more information. Am I allergic to it? Am I not allergic to it? So you want, but when you do the product, if you're allergic to the product overall, you put that in your product tab. When you get to the when you start to realize which ones you actually are, then what I would do is I would put it here. And maybe even here too. And the thing is even with me, I don't have thousands of products in my database. I have hundreds, maybe, not even. Look at, I have what? When I look at this, I have these. I'm slowly adding them. You're only going to add what you use. You're only going to target what you use. And most of the time you're going to target what you can't use. But you need to also target what you can use so that you can create those sheets that I have for yourself. And then you can go and you can use them to buy the products that are tolerable to you. All right. So I'm hoping that that makes sense to you. And I know how hard it is for a couple, especially a couple of people that have reached out to me. It's just absolutely horrific what they go through. I know. I do too. The other issue I have now is boxes, paper. Whatever I'm allergic to is they're now putting it in. And I can tell you it's not in my head because I have boxes from the past. I have paper from the past. And there's certain papers I can buy, which are fine, and certain that I cannot. I just have an issue. So could it be, it's bleach? Now, the thing is I used to be able to use bleach just fine. So has it been where I'm getting the issue with the bleach? Or am I having a broader sensitivity? That's the question. And that's going to go into, once I get past all this, and getting to this point, and I'm almost there. I've shared with you everything I do as far as washing clothes, giving you some ideas, having you see the difference between plant-based or organic products, trying to minimize those, synthetic chemicals. Even if you have to buy it, use it, scantily. You don't have to use a ton of it. And in fact, I sometimes walk by people and I can't even breathe. I don't know how they can breathe because it's so bad. And the thing is, they're so adjusted to it and they don't realize what they're doing. And I think to myself, do you realize what you're putting on your skin? You're putting this shit on your skin. It is shit. It is bad. And I'm sorry. I am a mom. I'm a grandmother. I call myself a matriarchal elephant. I know a lot more than most people about this. And I'm just asking you go do your own research so you find out. Because I can only share what I know, what I do. I think personally we need to share this. And we need to go back to the days where we know everything. And this is part of the problem. My fear of what's going on with the political arenas and all this, I call it the CIRCUS ACT. Because to me it's just a circus
Trust me, I've been around enough. I've been since Kennedy. I've been here since Kennedy, and I've watched these circuses go on. When the real politics is stuff that's, I wouldn't say it's hidden from us, but it's not in the forefront of what's being told to us. Really, the bills that are being passed, go in and look at the bills that are being passed, the details. And personally, I don't think we should do bills where there's more than one agenda, one rollout. You do one thing at one time, and I don't give a damn. You're being paid for it. That's what you should do. Not, they make these packages. So then what happens is there's a bunch of stuff and it gets approved, but there might be one or two things that are not good for the country, and that gets approved anyway. And that's crap. I'm sorry. Do your research. Go out and now, because you probably took school when you were a kid. Okay, political science. I didn't get political science when I was a kid. You know how I learned? I'm going to show you really quickly. I'm going to show you. Here's my docs. I'm going to go into my Ancestry just so you can see. I want to show you. This is, I call these packets, whatever. And here is my database. This is the one here. I'm going to show you just really quickly here. And I'm going to show you why. This is my database. And again, when you're creating there's a gal who's really interested in how I do this too. So I'm going to tag her in this and tell her where it is. Here is my people, and here are the IDs. And I started with a lot of zeros because I knew, I don't know how many people are going to get in here, but so far I've got quite a few people in here. So, it just builds. So, but anyway, here, let me close this one. It's going to be easier for me. There we go. And this one. This is my Ancestry database. So I'm going to just look me up. And I got to be careful because there's data in here I don't want you to see about my family and stuff. And, it's just personal stuff about my kids and things. But below here, it shows my parents. It shows my siblings in different subforms. Let me see if I do that again. I can show you when it's blank. Okay, so here when I look somebody up, I've got my parents, my siblings, my partners, and children right there. What I like about this is my database. I created this, and I created it way before all that other crap came out, because personally, I don't think I should have to pay somebody money to store my information so that they can charge someone else money to see it. I think it's bullshit, especially when it comes to our ancestry. That is just, I think it's horrible, and I think it should be regulated. It is ridiculous for a company to be able to charge you ungodly amounts of money every month just so you can find out information. And it's almost like it's in some way, they block you. I'm not sure how that works, but I'll try to find stuff out online, and it's all, I have to go to these pre-packaged places in order to find this information. But one place you can go is your local library, your register of deeds. You can still get information there, and that's where I go, the local library. Or I just do research, through newspapers. I was part of a newspaper thing for a while and did that. But the point is here I've got this information, and then here I've got milestones, so I can see, and I put them here. And here I've got comments, general comments about that person. Here's where I add the pictures, and those pictures go into those files. So here's my pictures, right? Newspaper articles, things like that I think are important. And I have them so I could, when I'm in here, I can click on here and I can see. And actually they just come up, and I can, like a photo album, I can just take through them. And then I have research, any kind of research that I want to spell out, because it's placeholders. I might do something so far on me, and then I'll go to somebody else and look up other people. And then I have other things in here too I'm not going to talk about. But what's important, what I wanted to show you, might as well do this right now. All right, so here's me, and I'm writing about me in there. I'm not going to show you. Here's my milestones down there. Okay, I'm not going to show you. I can actually transfer these over to other people, but I have an ancestry tree as well. And it doesn't have pictures, but it tells me. And that's as far back as I've gotten to 1742, 1690. Okay, I've gotten that far back. All right, so point is I wanted to hone in on this person, Hans. And I think that's okay for you to see his information. But this is his information here. Now this is Hans, and I believe that's his photo. I found it at a church that he used to go to. So I'm pretty sure that's him. He does look like my dad, my grandpa, and whatnot. Anyway, this is his kids. This is his the children. This is his brothers and sisters. And I'm not getting too into that. All right. Notice his name is Tellefsen Solberg. It's actually Tellefsen. He changed his name between 1869 and 1873 for some reason. And the reason I know that is because I went to the Register of Deeds and I looked up all his land, and he bought a lot of land. And he bought it in the name of Tellefsen, but he sold it in the name of Solberg. And I don't know why. And I did get to talk to a person who knew about the family and said something really bad happened. Because what I was doing was trying to find the holes. You know, why did my dad hurt me? Well, then I go back and I find out the really hardship life that he had as a kid with his mother and dad, and the situations that were with him. And my mom too, same thing. And I go back in their lives to find holes. I call them holes. You know, where there wasn't any parental guidance, where there was such trauma that happened, where it could have made it where somebody had the, you know, to me, violation is a delusional thought that you think you can hurt somebody. Where did that come from? That's what I'm doing when I'm doing this research. So, but when it comes to Hans, what happened is I found his oath of citizenship, and he had to have a sponsor prior. So he came here in 1844, and he was one of the very first people who came here. And there was a really great historian who shares this information, by the way. And I got it all in, you know, I've got it all documented. In other words, I made sure it was him, because there's lots of Hans Tellefsens from Denmark, or from Norway. So he came from Norway. He came with his grandfather and his brother, and they lived here. They went in New York, and they were sponsored, and he had to do an oath of citizenship. And that's where I said, well, wait a minute, I don't even know about government. All right. All right. So when I go into my research, I have a special, and I'm going to tell you this too because I think it's kind of cool. When I go into here, I have a thing. It's called, where is it? I don't want to waste your time. Okay, right here. It's called Messages from Your Mother. Now, every video I make is basically a message to my kids, to my grandkids, because when I was studying this man, I went over to the gravesite, and I actually found out about this man from the director of Mountain Cemetery. His name was Steve, and he has since passed. But this man, I adore this man. He had stories you just wouldn't believe. And so anyway, he told me where they were buried. And so then I started doing this, and I remember thinking, gee, I wish I could talk to you, find out what happened, because it's really hard. I'm taking dots of information and piecing them together, and actually it's good, but it's also, it can be incorrect, and I would not do that if I were you. You can learn about a person, and you can make an opinion based on what you learn, those factoids, but they might be wrong. You know, you don't know who they are until you really, really find out what's in their head and talk to them. You can only make suppositions and opinions, and we got to be careful with that. But anyway, that's why I got into government. So here I have these messages from your mother, and I get into all kinds of stuff, and some of them are videos and stuff like that, and some of them are education. See, I've got all these little videos and stuff. So what I'm trying to find, hold on one second. Okay, I couldn't find it, and I'm sorry. I put you on pause because it's like I'm looking for this. But what I did was, and I'll find it and maybe put it in the next video, but basically I did a whole study. I call them studies. I did a whole study on U.S. politics. And what I really did was I went back all the way and looked at all the colonies. I went all the way back as far as I could and came forward in time and created a timeline. And then this is the federal government. And I researched and I learned about the federal government now, because the question is, what do I think about it now, and how can this help me now? What are the changes that I can help, create and implement? And even getting in front of the Common Council, I never really knew how to do that. Now that I do, I know what my agenda is for next year. I mean, right now I'm advocating for other people, but I'm going to advocate especially to try to get some type of law put in place where someone who's going to sand down their house needs to have a permit, and they need to do it with HEPA approved materials. Remember what happened to me the past few years? Okay, so now I've learned that. Me screaming, yelling, stomping, and actually somebody said something to me the other day, a government official, and I'm like, you should have been there to help me create this law. You knew. I didn't. And I was kind of mad. But now that I know what to do, now I'm going to push it, because I don't think people should be able to sand down their homes, because I know the detrimental issues. So I'll make another video on that in the chemical awareness as well. But see how things develop. And so point is this is the study I did. I learned all about government, and I learned how this is really the only way you're going to make changes is by understanding government, but also to understanding consumerism. And so getting back to here, I didn't know about what it took to become an American citizen and what it means to become an American citizen. I didn't know that. I had to study this guy right here. And I learned so much through this guy. And this guy's been one of my, I guess you could say, a rock. He's just amazing. I have got so much information about this guy. And I really researched this guy to the point where it's just unbelievable. And I fill in a lot of the blanks. The blank I can't seem to fill in is the one between 1869 and 1873, when he changed all those deeds. He bought a bunch of property under Tellefsen, but sold all those properties under Solberg. Why? And Solberg, the reason he named himself Solberg is because he came from a farm in Norway called the Solberg Farm. So I know that. So am I really a Solberg or a Tellefsen? And the really weird thing about that is that when I was doing some stuff, okay, I'll put you on pause. What's really weird about this whole thing, okay, finding out that my grandfather's real name is Tellefsen, is a while back, December 2007, I started singing the national anthem at events. And the first time I got up, I remember I messed up. I said night instead of fight, which really upset me. And the worst part about it was because, singing the national anthem is really tough. But, it is. You're in your fight or flight the whole time. But the other part of it was people were talking. And so it was kind of hard to, the kids were talking, people, kind of settling down, for the game. And so what I did was, the next time I got out and I said, when I got on the middle of the floor, I said, listen, I'd like to talk before, I said, let me try it again. I said, before I perform the national anthem, I want to talk about someone that used to go to this school. And this man went to that school. And so then what I did was I basically did this speech. And I talked in the speech, I also talked about where he went to the classes, who were his teachers. And everybody sort of calmed down then. And then at the end of it, I said, please let us bow our heads in memory of him and all who have died and suffered and fought for the cause of keeping us safe in our country so we can be here tonight. And then we bowed, and I swear I was so close to tears. It was like, oh my gosh. But the thing is what happens is, when I do that, then I'm not singing for me. I'm singing for this man. And it was amazing. It really was. It was such a wonderful moment that these kids, maybe they listened to me. And these parents definitely did. After this, after I was done, a woman came down and she said, can you do the same thing for my husband? And so I did. Then we moved out of there, and I really kind of lost track on doing these types of things. I have sang at Marquette. I sang at the Bradley Center for the guys and the gals basketball divisions. So, but you don't do that there. But in my mind, I actually do. I think of somebody, and most of the time I think of my great-grandfather, who, this guy here, I'll show you really quick if you want to know a little bit about me. This guy right here, that's my great-grandfather, and he died in France in 1918 for World War I. And what's really sad is the war was over and he died, and he actually got hit in his hand with friendly fire, and he ended up in the hospital right away, just about, and he died. And again, that's like a hole. So for his son, and the thing is, you piece all these things together. So here's his son, and I actually don't have a picture of my grandpa, which is weird. My sister has them all. So, and I should ask her for it. But this is where he's buried. He's buried at Mound. And when you watch a video on Steve at Mound, you can see this in the background in the crypts. But this man, that was his dad, and Percival Solberg Jr. And this poor kid, he was, that's why I did this. He was born in 1911. His father joined the Marine when he was 6. His grandpa died when he was 7, and then his father died. His uncle died when he was 7. His father died when he was 7. Do you see where I'm going with this? It's like big, huge hole for this person here. Big, huge hole. And his wife ended up, Percival Sr.'s wife ended up marrying somebody out east. And I think this young man, when he was young, went through a horrific time and maybe even possibly sexually abused. Maybe. The way that he was with my grandmother, and he was he had such horrible substance abuse issues. He was an alcoholic, and actually he suffered from alcoholism. So I have a whole story about that, but I don't really want to get into it too far because now this video is getting too long. But I wanted to show you a little bit about me, and also too, this is something you can do. Same concept as far as with your Excel file. You can take and you can just have them have an ID. Make sure they have an ID number, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then here you would put that ID number and then the date and then the milestones, and then you would take and make a folder that has Ancestry and put this in it, and then have a subfolder with their ID number and maybe their name, and then put all their information in there. And you can do the same thing with a binder, by the way, in handwriting. And I was telling this gal, and she was really interested in it, so I'm going to make sure she watches this video. And I'm sorry, I go on about other things because nothing is ever just one thing, okay? It's really hard for me. I'm like, I got to try to parse things out, but I'm not that kind of person. I have so much going on, and I just want to share it. So eventually, though, in time, I'll parse this out and put it into a video, but I just want to share this all with you. And I want to go back to the kitchen. All right, I'm back in the kitchen. So, the conversation started with chemical awareness. We went into the Epsom salts, what you can do to create like a little rinse. I wouldn't put too much in your clothing, and actually I would rinse this out of your clothing too. I don't like having chemicals on my skin. But magnesium, just a little bit, compared to what is probably on your skin with all the lotions and all the shampoos and all the stuff in those laundry soaps. Magnesium's not that bad, and actually I know a couple of people actually spray it onto their skin and use it as a lotion base. So, but using the salts, you should melt it down, put it in some kind of suspension. Some people actually put it in milk, but that's not the rinse. That's like you wash your clothes with the laundry soap, then you use this as your second, and then you rinse that out. All right, so you can do that. The oils, I don't know. I think the oils, it would be best if you used it into the powder. But again, I wouldn't do a lot of it. I'd put it into a container like this and use it up pretty quick, because once you mix this with something, you're going to create a reaction with that, and it's going to start to break down that product. So I would not do it like in a big, huge bag of something, just a little at a time, right? And then I showed you these. This is my yes, no list. I think this is really important for you. And I showed you how to do this in an Excel file. I showed you my database and the complex parts of it, but each one of those parts break down to give me this. And then eventually I'll be able to just have one for hand lotion, and I'll be able to look at it. To me, it's much easier to look at it on a sheet of paper and process it that way. That's that objectivity that I talk about. Objectifying it and looking at it and saying, okay, here's the ones I think I could be allergic to. Here's the ones I don't think. And as I buy products, I can create a more specific list to these chemicals. And eventually that can lead me into when I work with my doctor and saying, yes, I know I am highly allergic to this right here and this right here. And I can make a list and we can check it out. Now, the thing is am I allergic? That's another question. Or am I just sensitive? It's completely different, different take.
And we can talk about that in another video, and I'm learning all about that now too. So anyway, so that's it for this video. I hope you've liked it. I hope you've gained something from it. Drop that comment below so I know if you're watching it and you're learning something from it. If you're using it, share it with other people, even as it is. I think it's a pretty good video. Share it with other people and get them involved in chemical awareness. And also to the understanding of how to create pattern structure, like in that Excel file. You can take that pattern structure and you can do everything. And actually, with the Common Council, when I talk, I'm gonna broach them, because when I talk to them, where does it go? I can't go look up. I can see the days I talked, but what do they do with it? I want to see that tracking system. So, using a tracking system, that's what I use. That basic overall pattern structure of being out there and then coming in with IDs and follow-ups and dates and things like that. So again, that's it for this video. Please like, share, subscribe, click the notification bell, drop the comments. But most importantly, everybody, please make sure you stay safe and stay healthy. And I hope to see you back here again next time in Lisa's chat room.